What is the statement in this case that Congress sent to China by approving that money for Taiwan? It's had very little talk compared to more controversial elements in the legislation.
Well, thanks, Joe. It's good to be with you. Yes, these conflicts that the United States finds itself in are interconnected. China's buying 90% of its oil from Iran. Iran takes that money and uses it to support terrorism in Lebanon, Syria, Hamas's attack on Israel, backing the Houthis against international trade. North Korea and China are on the side of Russia in the war in Ukraine. So this is interconnectedness. And that's why I think that the national security bill, Joe, was so important, because it sends the same message to Tehran, Beijing, and Moscow, which is we don't tolerate, and our Western allies don't tolerate, big authoritarian countries invading other nations. And we're going to be in a defensive posture there and provide those nations the weapons, the economic support they need to defeat that sort of threat. And Taiwan is a case in point.
Well, Congressman, you also just raised Ukraine and Russia. Part of this package was not just the $60 billion in aid, but also the Repo Act. And my question to you is, I know you were a big advocate for that legislation, allowing those seized assets to be used to fund Ukraine's war effort or whatever else. But knowing so much of that money is actually in Europe, what actually happens next? How hard is this going to be to get done, especially get done with allies' buy-in as well?
Well, every journey starts with a small step, and it was important for the United States to deliver military certainty and financing, but also economic deterrence in passing the Repo Act and showing Europe a good example of what that statute might look like. Yes, it's true we only have $5 to $7 billion here in the United States of Russian central bank assets, and it's closer to $200 billion in Europe. But just as we were voting to pass that bill here in the United States, the Council of Europe voted unanimously on April 16th to convert frozen Russian assets to a fund for the benefit of Ukraine. So we have advocates on both sides of the Atlantic for this policy.
Congressman, I want to ask you about your role on the Financial Services Committee, about an important issue to us here at Bloomberg. I know it's one to you as well, and that's the prospect of stablecoin legislation emerging. We spoke with Congresswoman Maxine Waters, of course, from your committee, who spoke to the idea of a potential way forward, a path forward that would maybe attach this to the FAA extension bill, if you could come up with a compromise, and also add something called safe banking with that. Here's what she had to say, and we'll have you respond.
It's about making sure that investors and that the people are protected, and that we don't have, a stablecoin bill where people who are, basically the companies don't have the assets that they say that they have. We have to ensure that they have those assets to back up stablecoins. We're on our way to getting a stablecoin bill in the short run.
How short is that run going to be, Congressman? What are you hearing on the committee, and would you vote for it if it was coupled with a cannabis banking bill as well?
Well, Joe, I would vote for it if it were coupled. I have supported the Safe Banking Act for 9 years in Congress now, which would allow cannabis dealers in states where it's legal to have access to the banking system. I think it's a lot easier to catch bad actors and illegal activity if those companies are participating in the banking system. So if someone's trying to take advantage of legal cannabis in an illegal way, it's a lot better to have those companies participating in the banking system. I think Ranking Member Waters is correct that we're very close to completing our bipartisan work together on a payment stablecoin bill that will protect consumers and enhance innovation here in the United States and make the U.S. more competitive. We'll see other countries adopt our rules once we put that law in place. And we're working on it in a bipartisan way as soon as we can to find the floor time and the compromise in both the Senate and the House to move that legislation.
All right, so bipartisan and bicameral. We have less than a minute left with you, Congressman, but is it your understanding that perhaps the easiest vehicle to do this would be the FAA bill?
I think that's a call that leadership has to make. I think there are other ways that we can do it during the course of the year. But if we get an agreement, then House and Senate leadership can work on the best floor strategy for moving the legislation forward. Bottom line is we've made a lot of progress in the last year. Our country will benefit if we can get both these bills passed.